Alright, so I kind of wanted to make this pretty quick. I probably won't even edit it much, but this is mostly for, I guess, newer players who are more competitive players, but newer to WoW maybe, or casual people who maybe want to start pushing, trying to be the best they can be at this game. This is kind of like a checklist, I guess, of what I do with a fresh 70, things you should probably be doing and looking into, things you should be aware of, and stuff like that. So this is a pretty freshish 70 I have. I have some gear because I could just buy it off the auction house, but for the most part, pretty fresh. First thing I do when I hit level 70 is, no matter what I was playing leveling up, is I just literally go to Google, your warrior guide, and either one of these is fine. Icy Veins or Wowhead, both of them are great. They're both written by fantastic, very high level people, so they definitely know what they're talking about. I just choose this one because it's habit. And the first thing I want to do is I want to steal and yoink their talents. Oh, I guess I should mention, there is kind of two avenues that you can kind of go down, I guess, in the end game once you hit 70. You can either do M+, which is basically dungeons, like you've been leveling up, but they scale up with every level. Like, for example, I have a level 4 key here. They just infinitely scale up and get harder and harder. Or you can do the raid content, which is bigger bosses, longer fights with like 10 to 30 people roughly. And that's kind of what you'll base this around, because your talent builds and some of the gear you're going to want to get kind of revolves around what you choose to do. A lot of people will choose to do both, and for the most part, you can find good middle grounds for those. You'll probably have to switch talents between Raid and M+, obviously, but outside of that, for the most part, the gear, you can kind of find a good middle ground for both of them and kind of stick with that. But anyway, let's just assume that I want to raid, right? Under this guide, follow the talent build. This is the raid talent build. There's two talent builds here. There's a small little blurb about what they're kind of about. Very straightforward, taking almost every talent interacts with Raging Blow to sustain its use, increasing cooldown frequency. No, more stuff. There's pros and cons to it. Simple, flexible, straightforward gameplay. One of the talents requires having my tier set, as well as buff tracking and coordination to use properly. If I look at the other one, it gets rid of Raging Blow, specific talents in order to take more bleed and bloodthirsts. Although Raging Blow is not part of the rotation, its place is taken by a combination of increased bloodthirst, whirlwind, and slam. Even more complicated, and it isn't actually any stronger. So we'll go with the first one. That seems better in my opinion. So you kind of want to copy this basically. Just go through. You can actually just export talents. Go into here, hit import, paste it in if you want. I already did this. A key thing to kind of keep in mind here when you're doing this though is, like, you don't want to just blind copy. Like, as you're going through, I recommend not importing and just going through one by one and picking them, because you can also read them as you go along, and you kind of get an idea of like what's going on here. You're not going to be able to memorize obviously and remember all of it, but you'll get an idea of like what's core. Like, you'll see, oh, auto attack speed is increased. Auto attacks have a chance to throw a sword. Oh, crit strikes increase my auto attack speed. Standing inside my spear gives me crit strike. So this is a 1.5 minute cooldown. This is a 1.5 minute cooldown. This is a 1.5 minute cooldown that also gives me crit strike. So maybe I use those all at once. I get a bunch of crit for standing in this, and then I throw swords a bunch. This generates a bunch of rage, does a lot of damage. This spends my rage, so it's probably going to be some combination of those two. This enrages me. Stuff like that. You'll kind of get an idea of like what your core abilities are, what I would like to call like your pillars of the class, the most important things. And you'll get like a general, I guess, feeling as you go through and read them, as you put them in. You'll kind of just, you'll understand a lot more than just blindly copying. So I always recommend to do that. The next thing I like to do is I like to go back up and go to stats. This is basically going to tell you what stats are going to give me the most damage. Obviously strength is one, that is what's called our primary stat. So the more eye level it has, the more strength it'll have. Always better. Eye level is always better for you. Then next it's haste, and then mastery. This kind of comes in important when you get similar eye level pieces. So like I have this, for example, 395 sword versus mastery. If we look here, reverse, not very good. Mastery is okay. If I get another 395 sword that has haste mastery, I would be like, oh wow, that's actually better. and I would take that. So just something to keep in mind. So like if you get something that's the same item level, it's not necessarily useless. It could be better stats and more damage for you. So it's always good to kind of keep this in mind as you're gearing up your characters. And finally, and some of the most complicated parts and some of the stuff I get the most questions about, I guess, is like crafted gear. So if we scroll down in the gear part, we get crafted gear for Fury Warriors. It's talking about embellishments and stuff, so we go over here, the Artisans Market.
Have a look around.
If you don't know what this is. So we use this, you get like sparks. You're just doing random content, so if you do dungeons, raid, there's a weekly quest that gives you one every week, you get splintered sparks of Shadow Flame. Combine 2 of these and you get a spark. Kind of like these, but this are last season's, so it's a newer one. You put it in here, lets you craft something, a pretty strong item. This is obviously not quite as strong because it's last season's, but the new one is like, yeah, 411 to 424. And so that's how you're going to end up crafting the things. And then there's also special crafted stuff like this Unstable Frostfire Belt. If you notice, it says Unique Equip Embellished 2. What this means is unique equipped means you can only have one equipped, which, go figure, we can only have one belt anyway, so we can't actually have 2 belts, so that doesn't matter. But the important part is the embellished 2. What that means is this equip effect on it, your spells and abilities have a chance to inflict lingering Frostspark, dealing extra damage over 10 seconds, and when they die they explode, leaves a sleeve that slows them. That's an extra, I guess, added effect called an embellishment. And what the parentheses 2 means is you can have 2 of these effects. So you could have this belt, you can maybe go with these. These are also embellished. Grants 46 verse to every ally in a 30-yard radius. Stacks up to 4 times. You can go miscellaneous neck. Lariat. Your spells and abilities have a chance to empower one of the socketed gems you have, granting 400 of their stat. Lasts 5 seconds, plus 1 second for each gem you have. But the important part is you can only have 2 embellished things. So whatever you pick, you have to have some combination of 2 of them. You can't have any more. So for this, because I'm a Fury Warrior, look at this. This is telling me for raid, Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch, very powerful dot, largest pure single target. So that's going to be beneficial for raid, since raid is mostly single target. So if I'm doing a raid build, I'm going to probably want 2 of these, because it says I can wear 2 of them at once. So that's going to be kind of where it differs. When you choose what content you want to pursue, if you would rather do more dungeons, you know, maybe you don't run these. Single target setups will use 2 Shadow Flame patches. Maybe you use the wrists and the lariat for AoE. I guess one thing I should also mention too is this Shadow Flame Tempered patch is an optional reagent. If I hover over this, you can see it says optional crafting reagent. I can basically add it to unembellished epic armor. So, like the ones I was saying, these ones are special, they're embellished. The other ones aren't. This one is not. They're just plain purple pieces. Any purple piece is something you can spend your spark on. That one's embellished. This one's not. This one's not. So I can add it to any non-embellished piece, is what it tells me. So I could go maybe boots, embellishment. I'd put the spark in, for example. Add embellishment. Oh, there's the Shadow Flame patch. I would go buy one of these, put this on. You can also customize secondary stats, because if you see here it says random stat 1 and 2. You can just guarantee that you get whatever stats you want. So for me, haste was best, so I want something with haste. Probably haste mastery is what I would go with. And then these are later on, you can level it up based on crests that you get for doing harder content. Pretty much. Oh, I guess there's one more thing I should mention too, is I guess consumables. So once you have your talent set up, you kind of have an idea of what buttons you're going to press because you read through these. You're going to have a fun time. You're going to do a lot of damage. You know what kind of gear you want if it drops. So if it drops anything with a lot of haste, I'm going to want that because that's very good for me. You'll have a crafted piece or 2. You'll have those set up for you. And the last thing you want to look at is your consumables, which you can also use this guide and reference this. Go back up to the top and just go under consumables. Everything is in this, so you can, I would recommend reading through a bunch of this because there's just so much good information in here. So this is telling me, okay, I need to enchant my weapons with Sophic Devotion 3, my cloak with avoidance, and chest with that, bracer with this, and you can basically just search these into the auction house. You can do item enhancements for your enchants, like if I need a weapon enchant. There's my Sophic Devotion 3. And then this is saying files, so the best file is tepid versatility. So I'd go to Flask and Files, get me a tepid versatility. Go back to this. This is saying elemental potion of power. So I could go potion. Elemental potion of ultimate power. Buy one of those. Ideally you would buy more of these, but I'm just doing this quickly as an example. Healing potions. You want to make sure you have healing potions for you, because you want to be able to hit these. Like if you get low health in a raid, it's always nice to hit these. They heal for a lot. And then I should apply Hissing Rune or Howling Rune. So I'm going to go with Howling because personally, according to my stats, Haste was better than Mastery. So, and I know the Howling ones give me Haste. So I will just search Consumable Howling. Since I dual wield, I want 2 of these. And then you're basically, this is your preparation for your raid. So you have your talents, you have your crafted pieces that you want, your ideal ones. You use these bad boys, these Howling Runes. So I have more haste now on each weapon. And then I have my tepid versatility, increases burst by 745. You pop that. And then you're basically ready, and then you save this potion. And then when you go into raid, as soon as you pull, you charge in, use this, maybe put it on your bar. I'll just go do it. And yeah, and that's your preparation. So you're buffed up, you got your flask, you got your 2 hissing runes. Someone will probably put down a feast in raid, you eat some of that, charge in, use your potion, and then do whatever you gotta do here. Hit all your buttons that you want to hit. And you just go to town from there and learn the fights. But I kind of just wanted to run through that, I guess, because it's more of like, I guess, just a generic checklist of kind of what to do when you get a fresh tune. That's kind of what I do. I wanted to make it quick because I do get some questions about it in game sometimes. Yeah, so first priority is basically set up your talents for whatever content you want to do. If you want to do M+, you look up the M+ build. If you want to do raid, you look up the raid talents, figure out what stats you want. So if stuff drops, you kind of know what's good, what's not, what you should be taking, what is a damage upgrade, what's not, even if it's the same item level. You have your crafted pieces, again, depending on what you want to push. If you want raid pieces, you want to get your raid crafted pieces. If you're doing dungeons, you would want the more AoE focused ones. And then you get your consumables as your preparation for raid, so you can be as buffed up and juiced as you can be. Same thing for M+ too. You want to have these also for the M+ dungeons, because you just want to do as much damage as you can, and this is just free. Well, it's not free damage, but it's quite a bit. It adds up a lot. And then from there, I mean, it just comes down to you hitting things and doing mechanics and getting drops. Again, this is kind of more focused, I guess, toward the new players who are maybe more competitive players but newer to WoW, or maybe just casual people who are like, oh, maybe I should take WoW more seriously. This is not really intended for people who have kind of like already done raiding in M+, obviously. Most of you probably already know this stuff. Also, I guess it kind of just gave a quick insight into the crafting, because that can be kind of confusing for people. I know I've gotten quite a few questions about crafting, but you really don't have to worry. It's not as crazy as it seems. You basically just get a couple of these, make your spark, figure out whatever the name is you need, and then just get the materials. You know, yeah, I would just get some of these, put a spark in, get my embellishment, buy one of these. Done. It's not quite as complicated as people make it seem. I guess the only other part I left out is you do have to find someone to craft it usually. You can public order it. It's really not a big deal. You just might not get a rank 5, but like, it's a small difference. And yeah, all the things that you should do as a fresh level 70. Once you hit level 70, that's kind of the things you should be going through, setting up your character for the future. Because once you kind of get all that out of the way, I mean, taking the 30 minutes now, learning it all, getting all these buffs, everything, knowing what you need, will save you a lot of time. I guess one thing I will leave you off on is just a reminder, The WoW Head or Icy Veins both work fantastic. Another good resource is the Discords. There's a Discord for every single class in WoW with a lot of very good players, very helpful people in there, very smart people. You have a Discord and you're looking to take yourself to the next level, I recommend joining one of those. There's an absolutely unbelievable amount of information in those and a bunch of active people who will answer any questions you have on the spot almost immediately. So that's worth checking out. Another quick thing I will leave off is this website sub creation. This is more for a little bit higher end stuff, but you can kind of choose, like, so I did a raid build, melee, Fury Warrior is what I did, and this kind of just shows you what people are doing, what the most common stuff is. So like, oh, if I'm doing Assault Boss, this shows me the most common talent builds. So everybody uses these. Most common one is using these three, but some people are taking Inspiring Presence instead of Seismic Reverberation, I guess. I'm not too familiar with Fury, so I don't know. Again, this is for a little bit further down the line, I guess. A lot of people are using these. That's kind of why I mentioned that I have these, is a lot of people are using them. You can see like gems. Oh, people are using Mastery Haste gems. That kind of makes sense. And then this is also good for trinkets too, so you can see what trinkets people are using. Those are kind of the big resources to use as you start getting started, as your first steps into like the more competitive aspect of the game. And I hope this helped some of the newer players, and I hope this resolves a little bit of the confusion, I guess, with Crafted and kind of like, what do I do when I first hit level 70, you know? So you can kind of, if you're looking to play this game at a higher level, at least you can kind of go through that checklist, do all those, set yourself up right at the beginning, and then from there it's just a gear grind, doing as much damage as you can. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.